Okay, so as I was talking about in the previous video, this is the 307 small block in the 70L Camino that we're going to be reusing. This is about as stock as you're going to find in a 1970 automobile. Best I can tell, this motor has been sitting in the car since about 1993. That's a fuel pump disconnected and just kind of laying to the side. 307 has a poor reputation among performance enthusiasts, and I don't think that's fair. Don't think about a 307 as a shrunk 350 because it's not. It's a stroke 283. So if you think about it in those terms, it has a lot of potential. The problem is Chevy built it to be the value engine. It was sort of the, I don't want to say loss leader, but it was the cheap V8. It was not the performance solution. It was never intended to be a performance engine at the time. One look at the intake manifold tells you that. Two tiny little barrels for the intake, tiny little passages in the plenum. This is not a performance build by any stretch. Compounding this problem is that Chevrolet used a very cheap camshaft. The metal in it was very soft and prone to wear. So after only 50,000 miles, you would be losing a few thousandths off of the cam and losing lift. So that's also part of why these motors had a reputation for being pretty soft. They lost performance fairly quickly. So over here on the workbench, this is the 2-barrel carburetor that came out of the car. You can see it's a very small 2-barrel Duojet 2M4. Lots of smog controls. Not a whole lot of air coming through this thing. Again, not a performance solution, never intended to be. Here's the carburetor we're going to be using. This is Summit branded. It's the Holley 600 double pumper design. It's got two 30cc accelerator pumps, vacuum secondaries, electric choke, very standard hot rod type of a setup. Should work very well in this application. Interesting manifold we're using. This is an Offenhauser dual port, new old stock. They don't make these anymore. This is basically a dual plane. And what that means is if you take a look in the intake runners, the runners themselves are actually divided. That's a heat riser. But you can see each of the runners has two completely separate passages. The smaller side is the primary, the bigger side is the secondaries. The thinking is you get a huge scavenge effect off of the primaries when they're running open, and then there's vacuum on the secondary side. When you open the secondaries, it's scavenging more airflow into the engine. These manifolds do have a bit of a spotty reputation, but you have to understand how to use them properly. These are not designed for high revving cars. These are not designed for large displacement engines. But this particular engine is going to be perfect in that it's a fairly small displacement small block, and it's not going to see more than about 5,000 RPM. So this is a very good manifold for that application. Don't put it on a big block. Don't put it on a 434 spinning 7,000 RPM. It's just not right for the application.